Thank you for tuning in. April is National Youth Violence Prevention Month. NYVP began in 2001 as an initiative to bring communities together to raise awareness of the youth violence epidemic that is plaguing our country. One of Office of Neighborhood Safety's key focuses is youth violence prevention. Minnesota State Statutes 120B.22 and 145.958 are both statutes that were created in order to mandate youth violence prevention education. Did you know that the state policy says that public education is required to implement 1 hour of violence prevention education a year? Well, you do now. During the month of April, all of our episodes will be dedicated to youth violence prevention education, just like our work. Here at the City of St. Paul, youth violence prevention is every month.
Welcome to the ONS podcast with your host, Linnea Jacobson.
Welcome back, you guys, to our ONS podcast brought to you by our partners at Face to Face Academy. ONS stands for Office of Neighborhood Safety. I'm your host, Linnea Jacobson, and I am a member of the ONS team. This podcast was created for departments like us and community organizations to come on and talk about our services. All of our episodes are about connecting you to alternative public safety measures, programs, and your local growth and healing opportunities. Today, we're going to talk about the Office of Neighborhood Safety's Goals, Not Guns campaign put together by your Neighborhood Safety Community Council. So I'll just give you guys a little background history. Mayor Carter and his administration established what they called the Community First Public Safety Framework in 2020, pulling together all of which the city uses to assist in all things public safety. I like to refer to this method as kind of like the tool belt. As a part of that framework, they formed a 48-member commission to dissect and analyze these tools, which include resources, policies, and procedures, making recommendations how they can be corrected or what can be added to enhance the positive outcomes. As the Commission's report was produced and they concluded, the Neighborhood Safety Community Council was established as one of their recommendations as a continuous way of having community buy-in with representation from all 7 wards to carry out the work, making sure the outcomes and recommendations from the group were truly established and there is oversight. We look at problematic public safety areas and assess what we as community members can do to address these concerns. We work with our law enforcement partners, fire department, parks and rec, grassroots organizations, and partner with larger nonprofits as well as provide stability resources. So in 2023, ONS launched a request for proposal for our first initiative, which was gun violence prevention. This was to recruit community organizations that had programs targeting sources that could lead to gun violence. Instead of just handing out financial awards, we also wanted to be physically involved in making a change and wanted to pilot a program that would pull our youth in and stand against gun violence with us, which was forward thinking on our part because when I went back through the report, I noticed a blurb in there that said 95% of the commission recommended that we dedicate our resources to youth programming. And by youth, I mean ages 24 on down. So with that being said, please help me welcome Executive Director of Elpis Enterprises, Paul Ramser, Face to Face Academy's Academic Director, Jennifer Plum, and Community Liaison, author, and North Minneapolis football team's coach, Charles Adams. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul is the founder of Elpis Enterprises. In addition to Elpis, he served as the program director at the Minneapolis Jaycees Charitable Foundation. In the 1990s, he helped design other innovative youth programs, including Youth Networks and Boulder Options. He has a background in the hospitality business and a Master's of Education in Youth Development Leadership from the University of Minnesota. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I have some icebreaker questions from you.
Great.
All right. So, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup or roast beef on a roll with ajoush?
Oh, that's a tough one, but I would say if I'm at home, it's the tomato soup
Okay.
and the grilled cheese.
Oh, because that's what you can make.
That's what I can make. If I'm out, we're doing the French dip.
Okay. All right. All right. So second question is, you just got your grass cut and fertilized. You got the greenest grass on the block. You just happen to be standing in front of the window with the breeze coming through on a Sunday morning, and it's spring. Miss Ross comes walking down the street with her Yorkie Terrier mix, and it number 2s and number 1s on your lawn. What do you say?
Well, I love dogs,
Okay.
so that's not a problem.
Really?
Not a problem.
You don't say, Diana, what you doing with your dog on my lawn?
No.
You just let her. You just let her go.
I just say these are dogs. This is what dogs do. So.
Oh my goodness, Paul! I think you're just saying that for the radio. All right, so Paul, give me a 30-second briefing about who Elpis is, what Elpis is.
Elpis Enterprises is a nonprofit organization. At its root, it is a job training program for young people who are experiencing homelessness, whose employment experience has been negatively impacted by circumstances such as unstable housing or teen parenting or exiting the foster care or connections to the justice system, what we would call opportunity youth. And they're referred to the program through a group of referring agencies in town, including Face-to-Face, for a 3-month paid work internship.
Okay.
And a supportive work experience in one of 3 social enterprises that we own and operate. And then we help them do some career awareness and career exploration and help them connect to either the next job or to connect to more education or training when they're done.
So tell me what your initial thoughts were when I first brought the idea of the program to you, and what made you want to take advantage of this opportunity?
I think that a big part of Elpis and the programs and the businesses that we own and operate is the question of stewardship. We have these great facilities, and it's like, how can we benefit the community? We can run a business, obviously, but there are just other things that we can do. And so when we saw the RFP come out about the gun violence program, we said there has to be a way for us to use the screen printing business to make an impact in this subject. And that's where the idea came from, to do a T-shirt contest and to get young people creative juices flowing and to think about how they could communicate their thoughts about anti-gun violence on a T-shirt, and then we could print those, make sure kids had them, and get the message out in as many ways as we could, plus give the community an opportunity to buy those T-shirts and help the school raise a little money.
Tell our audience how the Goals Not Guns program aligns with your overall mission at Elpis Enterprises.
So the social enterprises are a huge part of what we do. It's a supportive work experience. It's a chance for young people who have not been successful with employment to come in, work with a team, work in a professional setting, and do something real for the community. In this case, screen printing T-shirts. Most of the customers that we have are other nonprofit organizations with a variety of different missions. And so young people work in a team producing T-shirts for orders that come in. And this particular project is a chance for them to learn a little bit themselves about how young people in the community are talking about anti-gun violence and some of the ideas. And then those T-shirts get printed for the school, and they get to be a part of that process.
All right. So next we have Jennifer Plum. Jennifer has a BA in English from the University of Minnesota in 1996. She has been teaching at Face-to-Face Academy since 1999 as a language arts instructor. In her role as the academic director, she works with the Academy's school board, organizes and leads the professional development for the staff, and prepares the testing cycles for students. She also enjoys connecting with members of the community, inviting them to speak to Academy students about their unique experience. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
So, give me a quick 30-second background on you that I haven't already mentioned, if you can think of anything.
30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Okay. I, like you mentioned, have been working here at Face-to-Face for over 25 years. I am the longest tenured staff person, if you can imagine. So I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've also been just lucky enough to build programming and find my husband at work.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a very normal thing to do.
Okay, so I have some quick questions for you, some icebreakers.
Okay.
Okay. On your Sunday, you would rather be A, On my couch with a blanket, drinking cocoa, eating cheesecake, and binging Love is Blind. B, somewhere warm, putting on a sundress and some flip-flops, headed to a mimosa brunch. Or C, in my jeans, sweatshirt, on my way out to do some thrifting and antique browsing with $300 extra in my pocket.
Okay, I'll take the $300 extra in my pocket and
You only get one.
and go to the beach. Somewhere warm.
Okay, sounds good. So tell us a little bit about Face to Face. Like, how and when did your organization get started, and what is the target audience and population you guys are serving?
Sure. We are a charter high school. We were founded in 1998. I started a year later, and our mission is to serve students who historically haven't really been successful at school. So they may have fallen behind their graduating class if they already started high school. They may have kind of struggled in a traditional school. So maybe the school was a little bit too big. Maybe the class sizes were a little bit too big. And they just needed something that was a little bit smaller, a little bit more supportive. And then maybe their former school wasn't really fully addressing their type of learning style. So we are just small, we're alternative, and we'll pick you up regardless of what school looked like for you last year.
And you mentioned that some of your students have dealt with gun violence and been affected by gun violence. How did you feel, and what was your initial thoughts when I first brought the idea of the program to you?
When you first brought it to us, I was very honored and like really excited and thought that this was like really creative and alternative and just really innovative. So I felt like we can do it. This is the right place to do it. And then after I kind of like kind of settled down and caught my breath, it was like, ooh,
yeah,
this is going to be really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had some significant traumatic incidents with a couple kids in our school. So I would be taking this lesson to someone who recently just was shot.
Right.
I would be taking this lesson to someone who just lost a family member due to gun violence. So it was going to be really, really, really difficult to pull off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the courage and healing and change you've witnessed in your student body when participating in the campaign.
Number one, nobody left the classroom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when we kicked off the unit, we had mentioned that this is going to feel pretty emotional. It can feel triggering. It could feel kind of traumatic and potentially like a little bit too close to home. And that if anyone felt uncomfortable or if they felt like, I just want to go to math class, I don't want to talk about gun violence, that they could leave the classroom. So we sort of set those ground rules right away. And we kind of thought we could pull it off maybe in 5 weeks, but we ended up like expanding it to 10 weeks, and then I expanded it to 15 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So I just kept like lengthening the unit. So when I say literally nobody left the classroom, that was school wide for like 20 weeks.
Yeah. So the kids were like really engaged.
They were really engaged.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
It worked really well because when I went to go look for curriculum, there's really not a lot of curriculum out there. And being an English teacher, I'm like, well, I have to somehow connect this to literature. So I have to find something that we can read sort of like as our backbone to the curriculum. And that's how I stumbled upon Charles Adams' book.
So tell me about what you came up with for a curriculum.
So in addition to talking about Charles Adams' book, I went to what people in our community were saying about gun violence. So we looked at like, what's the governor saying about gun violence? And I copied different like public statements that he had made about gun violence, and then the students sort of reacted to those. And then I brought it closer to home and did St. Paul's mayor, so Melvin Carter, like what is he saying about gun violence, and kind of brought it closer to home. And then the students talked to each other about like, well, what do I think about gun violence? So we just kept bringing it kind of closer and closer and closer to home. And then when I was kind of checking in with you, I was like, well, these students are working really hard for 20 weeks. I think we should have the mayor come on in and like congratulate them for talking about gun violence for 20 weeks.
And that was the best idea ever, because we had already planned to have a celebration, but for you to think outside of the box and make it bigger and invite our city officials in, that was an epic idea, and I thank you for that too.
Thank you, because it was so much fun, and he was so great with the students.
Yeah, and then I think it does something for the kids, right? It makes them feel like, okay, he's going to step away from his busy agenda and he's going to come be here with us and celebrate us. And that's amazing.
It's amazing. He really showed up for them and showed up for the topic.
Tell us a little bit what were the kids' reactions? Like, how did that play out over the next couple of days with his visit here?
Well, they were very, very excited that he was coming. I don't think they had like a lot of history with him, that he was going to be like so charismatic and such a really good speaker. But what happened is after his speech, and then we awarded and picked the winning T-shirt, he did not spend time with like us as the adults in the room.
Right.
He went right up to the students and was like, "Hi, my name's Melvin. What's yours?" and was like talking to all the students in the room, and they just felt like just so seen and heard and validated.
That's awesome. Well, because of you, I don't know if a lot of people know, maybe I didn't mention this earlier in the program, but Face to Face was our pilot for this program. And we're so appreciative that they agreed to engage and take this on. So that was prior to having a curriculum formatted. And in this, I sat down with Jen and got a lot of feedback from her. And that was one of the things that you mentioned, is that we need to have some sort of curriculum to go along with this program. Otherwise, teachers is just trying to pull things and put things together. And then that's how we started working with Charlie Adams.
Well, in addition to the mayor coming, Charles Adams also came on site. So after we read the book, again, you helped with this, Linnea, you hooked us up, which was great, and we're so thankful. We were able to invite our author of the book that we just read to come to campus. So he did a public speaking, and he did a little bit of reading from his book. He signed the different copies of his book that we had gotten. He stayed for lunch, and then he did a podcast with a couple students.
And that leads us to Charlie Adams, you guys. Community liaison, and Arthur, he is a former Minneapolis police officer for 20 years, where he was not just a public safety official, but primarily worked in fostering positive relationships within the community he lives in and served. As part of this relationship building, Charles mixed his passion for mentoring and protecting youth with football and formed the perfect job, working part-time with Minneapolis Public Schools as the lead coach of the North Minneapolis Polars football team. Welcome, Charlie.
Glad to be here.
Are you trying not to laugh?
You're hilarious.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have 2 questions for you. You're really going to be laughing now. I'm about to get you. Which best describes you on a Sunday? Barbecue, bros, and American football, or I'm going to make myself a sandwich, cut the grass, and then take a nap?
Who in the world says number 2?
Why? You have to. Some people.
Number 1, barbecue, bros, football all day, every day.
Listen, some people are antisocial and want to be at home cutting grass and going to sleep.
Okay, maybe in May.
You don't know when this is going to air.
Maybe in June, not during the fall.
Second question. You've been eating healthy all week, and it's time to break that fast. After spending all week preaching to your football team about making healthy food choices, you pull up to Wendy's and one of your students is working the drive-thru. Do you order the Baconator or the grilled chicken sandwich?
That's a great question.
And you have to answer it even if you don't eat Wendy's.
Baconator. I love Wendy's. Hey, I will get the grilled chicken sandwich with a side of some chicken nuggets. How about that? And if they say anything, I'm making them run.
Okay. All right. I guess they're going to be quiet then. Okay. So tell me what your initial thoughts were when I first brought the idea of the program to you.
I think it was just the opportunity. I think just the opportunity to continue to have a voice in the community. And I think so much with this last few years of some of the things that I've been involved with, I think this was just another piece for me to continue just to help mold people in this community, help mold me as a person, but giving some of my knowledge and support in this way. And I honestly thought, it was a no-brainer to me, just because I want to constantly be able to be a valuable resource. So I thought that, obviously, coming from you, anything that you had recommended was obviously a great thing. And I just thought it was something that I have to be a part of. And I think it's a great opportunity.
I'm going to go off on a side, like a side street for a minute. Give us a little bit about your background and growing up, and where all of your morals and your values and your passions really kind of came and evolved into this kind of work.
Oh, certainly. Well, I grew up on the north side of Minneapolis, played basketball, played football at North High. My whole family went to North. We're Polars. For some odd reason, my brother and sister didn't go, so we can excuse them for that. She actually went to Patrick Henry, which is our rival.
She just wanted to be different.
Yeah, exactly. You know how y'all do. in the same sense, I watched, I grew up in a law enforcement family. Mm-hmm. So my father, who's, still currently, and he's now the inspector at the 4th Precinct on the north side, the neighborhood that we grew up in, obviously. And then my uncle. So we were law enforcement. My sister now is sworn, working on the north side as well. It was law enforcement is what our family was. Mm-hmm. And I think the connection to the community with my dad growing up in the projects, and then us growing up just a block or two away from the high school, regardless of us being a law enforcement family, we still seen everything that was going on in the neighborhood. And for a lot of times, I think the connection that my father and my uncle had established in the community kind of helped us out in some way, because people were more willing to provide information if things were unsafe. And then it kind of flowed into when I started as an officer, to where, the same kind of relationships that my family had built, I was able to kind of carry those on, and being able to navigate the dangerous situations and dealing with people, because it's basically the people that you grew up with that you know. So, with my career, my main focus was the mentorship of kids, putting them in the right spot, starting from the Police Activities League and coaching them there, then going to the high school and coaching kids in high school, keeping them, out of trouble, steering them to the right place, but then also giving them an opportunity to play at the next level. Mm-hmm. And I think building all that together and not letting our kids be labeled as what people may think they are, and giving them hope. Not saying that I was a single provider of that, but just giving them the hope that they can have to be successful. And people always say, when it comes to football, they'll say, hey, man, you got a great team. You got some good kids. And I'm like, that's what's here. Mm-hmm. It's always been here. I'm them, and I try to uncover whatever the diamonds in the rough, we say. So we have plenty of those in our neighborhood, in the city, Twin Cities completely. And I just want to be a part of being able to help mold that.
I think what's unique about you, and you were on that trajectory with your family history before they even started implementing that whole thing about policing where you live, community policing and all that other stuff. But you were already in that mold, because you grew up, you end up policing in the neighborhood that you grew up and that you still live. And then you have relationships with the kids because you work at the school. So it's like this natural, organic relationship. Yeah. Like I mention all the time, I lived in North Minneapolis for 12 years and just bumped into you numerous times when you weren't policing. You know what I mean? You're volunteering at church and being security at church. And you're just at the grocery store being security at the grocery. Like, you're everywhere. Like, you can't go anywhere
and that's,
in North Minneapolis without bumping into you.
And that's the biggest thing, and it's crazy that you say that, because that's just how I was raised. I was working on a situation where, there was a situation at the police department where somebody needed something. And I told that person I'd get back to him, and I didn't get back to him quick enough. So that person who I grew up with his kids, and he grew up with my daddy and my mama, he calls my daddy and says, hey, man,
Charlie ain't called me.
Yeah, he ain't called me. So then what do you think my daddy does? Man, call Mr. So-and-so. I mean, and that still sticks. And I think one of the biggest things, too, is showing the kids that we mentor and that we're around how important it is for like the unity part. And like they treat my dad like he's a grandpa. So sometimes they try to tell on me. And he always tells them stories about how I was when I was a kid. So, but I think that's the beautiful part, you know, and as you say, like just working at church, you know, working at church. We grew up in the church, and that's the situation where I figure I got to be there. I mean, this is my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if pastor called me, I got to be there at the church. So, I mean, that's just how we think.
So can you talk a little bit about how this program fits into your line of work and aspirations for our young people? I know you touched on that a little bit, but can you just give us a little bit more detail about how the Goals Not Guns program aligns with everything that you do?
I think it's just important to have the goal, a goal. And when you talk about goals and not guns, these are giving our young people the opportunity to strive for something other than what people say that's just what it is. Growing up, a lot of kids think that all they have is homelessness and poverty and gangbang and prostitution, all these things, these bad things that they see in the movie and the things that infest some of our neighborhoods. You have the opportunity to have goals and set them. A lot of times kids think that just because it's not instant gratification and it doesn't happen right away, that it's a complete failure. So having enough courage to work with kids and work with people, young adults, and help them achieve their goals with a different route, I think it's just important. And I think we need more people like you and just like the whole organization that we can continue to spread that word and let people know that we're here to support, but, you know, hey, you can be the best at whatever. It doesn't have to be this. And how can we support you to be in that role?
So what I want to do is I want to take like 5 minutes just for us to talk about why gun violence prevention education is so important. And Charlie, I'm going to start with you.
I think that whenever you're dealing with youth or just a community with issues, there's no way that you can't address the gun violence situation. And whenever you are put in a position where you can help people, I think it's important for you to be able to make sure people know what's important to avoid and how to reach out to the community to help them avoid some of these bad situations. So, you know, in my eyes, you know, just growing up in North Minneapolis, I think I've seen all the gun violence that, you know, we still see today, and being able to navigate and avoid those situations, but also letting these young ones know how important it is to avoid those situations, I think is important, definitely in this culture of kids.
Mm-hmm. Paul, what about you? Why do you think it's so important that we have gun violence prevention education?
I can safely say that every young person that we have had at ELPIS over the years has been personally affected by gun violence in the Twin Cities, along with everybody on the staff. You know, it's just such a huge problem. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity for young people to be involved in a program that brings awareness, that gets it out in front of people's faces. You know, T-shirt advertising is just a great way to do this, you know, to get a phrase or a saying or a motto or something on a shirt that says, hey, this is a big problem, you know, and we need to work on it. Mm-hmm. And we need to talk about it, you know, and we can't solve it if we don't talk about it. I thought that when Face to Face did their program and they put all of the ideas up on the wall in the hallway, and we got to walk down and look at all of these different drawings and artwork that kids had created. And then one of the teachers said the real learning started to take place once we put these up on the wall, and all the students could see every other student's ideas. That's when the learning really started to happen. And that's when the communication started. When kids got to see what other kids thought about this subject, then that's where the understanding starts to take place. It's not a problem we're going to solve overnight. It's not a problem that probably never will go away 100%. But it's a problem we can certainly make a dent in, and we can certainly make a difference in.
That part. Messaging is powerful, right? Nobody wears something on their chest that they don't believe in.
That's right.
And I think that part of the T-shirt component and the education that comes along with it, that goes hand in hand, because you're educating and then you're carrying on that message to others. You're showing what you believe in and what you tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate and what you want, right? Messaging is powerful. So Jen, why don't you weigh in why gun violence prevention education is so important to you?
I think it's the number one thing we should be talking to kids, because I think it threatens kids, and I think we can prevent the threat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you guys talk about it a lot at Face to Face?
Well, the thing with gun violence, the word gun, it's like saying bomb at the airport.
Right.
No one really wants to talk about it. And every time you bring it up, it's really hard to talk about it. And it is important to talk about, and I do talk about it with our students, because unfortunately our students have been victims of gun violence, just as any other high school can say.
Thank you to those that are tuning in. Another episode for you, St. Paul. Remember, working together and getting the word out on how the community can access our program is key. To learn more about Office of Neighborhood Safety and our Community First Public Safety initiatives, please visit stpaul.gov, click on Resident, and scroll down to Public Safety.